to our
Okay.
listeners and viewers of the Real Stuff podcast. Today is our special guest day, and today I have with me Mr. Christopher Creary, aka the Young Professor. Mr. Creary is a person who works at the Oak Botanical Gardens, and he is going to tell us today, a little about himself, what he does, and all the works. So, Mr. Creary, tell our audience and our listeners, and viewers, who is Christopher Creary?
Oh, okay. Wow. Christopher Creary is a human being, a normal person, but a lot of people have because of my knowledge of the country, Jamaica, and not only Jamaica but the world, because I've done a lot of research in my life. Where I've researched most of the Middle East and the Eastern countries, European countries, and also I've done a lot. As a matter of fact, I've done 9 years of extensive study on Africa alone. So I have a lot of knowledge and stuff from the olden days. I didn't have a computer, and those days I didn't have any. I had to rely on books that were coming in. I had to be sending for books, getting books. As a matter of fact, during the 9 years I was doing that, I was along with Sister Mariam Samad. She's the person who is the well, she created the Dashiki shirt, and she was born into the Garvey organization in on the 2nd of September 1922, and she died about a year and about 2 years ago, thereabout, right? But I'm now what they call a master heritage tour guide. A lot of people call me the young professor, and I do a lot of tours around Jamaica, and not where I only work at Oak Gardens, but I do all of the tours. That I have tour routes that I go on to tell people about Jamaica. And if you should come to Oak Gardens, you're going to be in for a treat, because in Oak Garden there is 11 acres of land that houses the Chinese garden. Can I show a picture?
Yeah, man, go ahead, please, though.
Okay, this is a brochure that I laid out and gave to the photographer to do, and he sent it to Herald printers to print. And this is the brochure of the Chinese garden in Oak Gardens. This is the front of it. And so all of the information that is written on the inside of the brochure, that was written by me. Okay?
Wonderful.
So there for me, I will give info as long as I'm able to. Once you ask, I will give a lot of info on whatever it is, right?
Okay, just let us backtrack a little bit because, you being such an interesting character, people may want to know your early beginnings, a little bit more. We know that we skipped right into the story of you being a tour guide and a very experienced tour guide at that, but a little bit of the story because I see that you have your early beginnings in Moko, Clarendon,
Oh
so
wow, yes, 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 yes,
yeah, so
yes.
tell us a little bit about that early beginnings and all of that.
Okay. I'm an only child from my mom. And so at a very early age, about 2.5 years old, she sent me to live with my grandmother and my aunt and my cousins. So for roughly until I was about 11 years old, I was with them in Clarendon in Moko. And it was there that I learned a lot about taking care of plants and learning duppy stories and knowing about the cotton tree, that the same cotton tree that a lot of people call the duppy cotton tree. And the early beginnings, there was something else because my grandmother, she would well, all I say is, come and go bush boy. So you walk in with her to the farm to see what is there. She secretly picked a leaf from a tree and then she would slip it into her pocket. You don't know that the leaf is there. And when you get home, she would say, um, let's say if you can break off a limb off of this tree. So the leaf, go break off a limb off of this tree, bring come. So you there, I remember one of the tree that my cousin, they call it waterwood. It was one of, and I searched for the tree about a half a day. And I found it, bring back the branch, and then she told me a story about the tree. Now, the stories that she told was that you should protect the trees. You shouldn't harm the trees. You shouldn't cut them down. These are trees that can heal you. These are trees that is medicine. This is what you can drink from for a common cold. This can help you not to cough very hard. And this is how I learned about the different trees um, in Moko, because we even had the it's called the Spatulia campanulata. It's the African tulip, and that tree is native to uh, East Africa mostly, but it's very invasive. So now it's all over because of the pad, the pad of the trees. Okay, this is the pad of the tree.
Okay.
And this pad can hold at least 300 seeds in it. And these pad, the seeds are so light, it comes like cotton, it just blows away. So whenever it drop on fertile soil, then it will spring a tree. And this guy can tell you within 2 weeks, you will see a tree coming up. Right? So I learned a lot from my grandmother about trees. Now my aunt was the next one. And she said, you can't write. You can't write. You're writing no good. Look how me write, and you can't. And she's always telling me that I can't write anything because it's not that I'm dunce, but I can't write. I can read well and everything, but I cannot write. And, and even until today, I don't write join-ups. I still write crypts. Right?
Yes, yeah, that's quite understandable because in growing up, that was the first thing, when you're young, that you learn to write script before you really learn to write giant up. So, it's also part of the penmanship experience that we have growing up in our era. Yeah,
Well,
because
you
I did.
said penmanship because you
Yeah, go
said
ahead.
penmanship because she gave me the word penmanship to write and told me not to lift the pen from the paper until I have finished writing penmanship. So that was why I couldn't write. Because I keep
Yeah,
lifting the pen from the paper for its join up. And she said, you can't do that. You must write it straight. And the time you lift it is to dot the I on the ship, the word ship.
yes. So,
Right?
and most people who grew up in our era, we have like we have interesting stories to tell about all of these things. So that's where you got your early training in understanding trees and plants and all of that then. So
Yes.
that's
And
what makes you such an effective tour guide. But one of the things that I found intriguing is that visit from the ambassador from China. I just saw the pic, like you talking to him at Hope Gardens and all of that. Tell us about that experience.
okay, the experience with Ambassador Tianchi and Lady Allen of her own the Governor General's wife, the First Lady. What happened is that on the day they were supposed to come and get a tour of the Chinese garden. Someone told the boss that Mr. Creary is the perfect person to give the tour of the Chinese garden. He was kind of not wanting to. So he came to me and he said to me, oh, Mr. Creary, if you can't do it, let me know. I will get somebody. So I said to him, but he is just the third one that is coming. So I can do this. This is nothing. You know, I can handle this. And so on the morning of the tour, the the Chinese ambassador came down and I said, Zhou Shahan, Wayne Laido, Tonglo Yuan. And that means good morning, welcome to the harmonious enjoyment garden. And he was, whoa, you know, and he was saying to them, I'm impressed. So that started off the tour right there. I spoke about the Lingbe wall, the alabaster tile, the slate, the marble, the glazed clay, the pebbles that came from central and northern China. I talk about the Lingbe stone, the moon gate. I talk about the pavilions which became as the century box that became pavilions and the pavilions that became pagodas in China. I spoke about all of that. I spoke about the first female emperor of China, Wu Zetian, and I spoke about the lions, the two lions, the double lion, the two lions that are for guarding and are also for representing the family, the unit of the family. I spoke about feng shui and how we should walk and all of that. So it was really something else on that tour.
But tell me something though. Where did you learn Mandarin from? Because
Okay, all right. The Professor Courtney Ogart of the University of the West Indies, he along with Dr. Chen they came, but they didn't tell me who they were. They just came and said, sir, can we get a tour of the Chinese garden? And I gave them a tour of the Chinese garden. At the end of the tour of the Chinese garden, he gave me an invitation for the Confucius Institute. And that's how I ended up there. And from there, I got an app to help me along and my Chinese teacher. And we had a ball doing Chinese in the Confucius Institute there. And then came COVID and I had to stop. But I still practice.
okay, another thing that was quite interesting, that after giving this Chinese ambassador a tour, you were given some kind of scholarship or to go to China.
Oh, it's not a scholarship. I
Or
got
an
an
invitation.
invitation from the Chinese ambassador to China to do culture and language, Chinese culture and language in China. And so they took me to China. I spent from the 6th, from the second of June to the 26th of June. So it's roughly a little bit over 3 weeks into 4. So
Okay,
that's the length of time, and I got a certificate.
so how was it in China? I saw some pictures that you sent me, about.
It was awesome, awesome, awesome. I went to the Great Wall of China. I went into the Forbidden City. I went to the Central Museum. I went to Suzhou. I went to Shanghai. I mean, yeah, I went to the Beijing Bell Gate, where I had a tea ceremony with drinking tea from a little tiny cup. And it was really wonderful. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome going there and experiencing someone else's culture, and especially in the Forbidden City, which is the largest imperial garden in the world today, having 90 palaces and over 980 buildings, and it is said that it is housing some 8,796 rooms.
Wow.
In the Forbidden City. And the Forbidden City was built between 1406 to 1420 by the Ming Dynasty. And the Ming Dynasty was overthrown by the Qing Dynasty in 1644. And in 1644, right up until 1912, the Qing Manchu Dynasty ruled China. And they were the ones that had 10 emperors. And in that, the fourth emperor, the Kangxi emperor, he was the longest reigning emperor of all times because he ruled 61 years in China before he stopped. The other emperors, they didn't rule as long, but he was, and also he was known as the good emperor because in a year of good harvesting, he wouldn't tax the people. So he was loved by the people, why he had ended up ruling so long. He ruled for 61 years. Right?
Wow, so we have to stop calling the young professor and call you the professor of Chinese history, eh? Yeah, because that's a real history lesson for me, Yes. So
Okay.
I guess like the Forbidden City was the highlight of your tour though. Because that seemed to,
Yes,
fascinate you so
because
much.
I got to dress like, well, yes, because I get to dress up like one of the soldiers in the army of the emperor. And I got a picture of it also, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it was really awesome being in China. I learned a lot. I saw a lot. I even went on the river and came up on the other side when I was there, and they took me on tours. I went on. There is a tunnel that goes right underneath the river and comes up on the other side of the city, and that's really awesome. That's something else. Trust me. And I see levels of roads on top of roads on top of roads. Wow, it was really something else. And I saw a glass building from the bottom to the top, way up. It's just glass. Don't know how they do it, but it was just glass all the way up to the top. It was really awesome in China, trust me.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I also saw in the bio on a clip that you went to UA to do a course and you got free tuition because of your expertise as a tour guide and all of that. So tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, it's the same one where I did the tour because Dr. Courtney Ogart, he was the one that I gave me that scholarship to go to UA to do the course. So I
Okay.
got through with that one, right? It was the same one I was telling you about before, right? Okay.
Okay.
I also, well, I've done a lot of research, so much so that a lot of, I don't know, have you ever heard about Kingston Creative? They're painting the city.
Yes, I've
And
seen
the
pictures. Yeah.
Kingston Creative painting, I'm one of their main tour guides. As a matter of fact, I'm the person that does the music tours. And my music tour that I do, I start off with where our music goes way back into slavery, where our ancestors were playing and singing revival and African revivalism. They were singing their own songs on the plantation to keep them going. And that is what that came out in the Kumina. That is what came out in the Jankuno. That is what came out in Mento, our first form of accepted music, and it evolved into what became ska, and the ska became rock steady, and the rock steady became reggae as because reggae is really a dance
Yes.
that was sung about by Toots Hibbert, because the music was that let's do the reggae, and the word reggae became attached to the music, and the music became reggae, and the rocksteady one drop and two drop beat excel into what it is now, because it is now what we have now as dancehall, and a lot of people have not gone back into that era of reggae, where the rock steady, the slower beat, the lovers rock music, there's not coming, that kind of beat is gone. So they're a much faster beat that is going on now that they're using. But it is coming from our Afrocentric liberty while on the plantation, because our music, that's where our music evolves from. right?
Yes, and but yet still in the Jamaican culture, people tend to look down at Kumina. Why?
I don't know, and it's all African spirituality. That I don't know. It's a teaching that we get that tells us that Kumina and Afrocentric music is not good for us and it's bad for us, and so they look at it and say it's obia, and they're not looking at the other music, because look at quadrille. Quadrille is European.
Yeah.
And maypole is European. Yet still we have it in our festival every year, and nobody says anything about this, right? And the Kumina, they would want to shun from it and afraid of it. We should accept it. We should love it because it's ours. We should keep it. Because in my music tour, when I'm talking about our music and we go onto Orange Street, between Haywood Street and King Street, that is Beat Street. Beat Street is where our music developed. And all of the music that developed right there is it comes from the different studios that were being built there. The different studios that we come up with, like Beverly's Records, uh, 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 Treasure Isle Records, um, Sir Cox Nod with his Studio One, and around the corner. We had the techniques, and we had so many of them that came up on the era. Because what we should realize is that ska was brought to the world by a female, which is Millie Small. She was the one who went ahead first with it, and she became the person who everybody was looking for, because she came out with the ska and brought it worldwide first. But the group that named Scatterlight came out of Mr. Eric Dean's band. And that band, it wasn't called a band, I think it was called an orchestra. And his orchestra they prepared these men to become the Scatterlights, like the Don Drummond, the Roland Alfonso, the Tommy McCook. These were the persons who headlined the Scatterlights. And when they formed the Scatterlights, we had ska, a different beat from Mento, because Mento was with the rumba box and the banjo guitar and so on and so on. But the Scatterlights music came out in the 1963-64, and it was, funny enough, it was a Chinese by the name of Justin Yap, who excel in with bringing the Scatterlights to the world. He was the one who did that. And Beverly's Records, again, was owned by another Chinese by the name of Leslie Kong. This is our music. Channel One was owned by two Chinese brothers, right? Byron Lee and the Dragonaires. Byron Lee bought whatever equipment he could from Edward Siaga after he did the Omanio with Larry Marshall, right? So it's a lot of it that is happening. A lot of what has happened with our music comes from the slave plantation into what it is now. Okay?
Yeah, quite agree. So Flavius, I see that you're back. Do you?
Hopefully, can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
I'm hearing you.
Yes, I can.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Morning, sir.
Morning, good
Glad
morning.
to have you. Although you're eating on a different topic than what I saw in the bio.
Now it's part of a tour, because he's like a tour guide that tours and the gardens, the music. He does a creative tour in downtown. So the creativity went to the music, which is a part of being a creative too. So that's why he was getting into that.
I'm only in that to say this, that we need to have you on for just music, because your knowledge, really immense. But I want to ask you a question. In
Okay.
your tour,
Pardon?
Is Bournemouth part of your tour? Is Bournemouth Gardens part of your tour?
Bournemouth.
Bournemouth Garden.
Yeah. East Kingston.
I'm not hearing you properly.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Creary is asking if Bournemouth Gardens is part of the tour that you do.
You mean downtown?
Yeah, Bournemouth out in
East Kingston.
East Kingston.
Yeah, Bournemouth Garden is out East Kingston where they have no. I do a tour from Raytown to Port Royal where it includes Bournemouth Gardens, Rockfort, Harborview, along the Palisade Strip, Fort Rocky, and into Port Royal.
The why I'm asking is that Bournemouth is one of the most musical place in Kingston.
Yes, because a lot of people don't know this because I don't go down there because the tour is concentrated on Water Lane. And it goes up onto Tower Street and up onto Orange Street where all those record shops were. And then from there it goes into Trenchtown to Bob Marley's old yard, tenement yard.
You're not hearing me?
Culture yard. That's where the tour, that's where I take the tour. But going to Port Royal, I would always travel from Breezy Castle. They're about right at the Myrtle Bank, the old Myrtle Bank Hotel. From that place right there, I would go east and then I would talk about Beaumont because Beaumont is part of the old Hope Estate, which is part of, well, Hope Gardens. So it's you know, it's part of the old Hope Estate, Beaumont Gardens. As a matter of fact, where they
but I was referring to it as far as music was concerned because there was a.
Oh, well, yes, because there's a lot. All right, I know of the Abyssinians, and have you ever heard about Carlton and the Shoes?
Yes.
It's a music group.
Yeah.
They're the same ones are the Abyssinians, you know.
Yeah.
They're the same ones that formed the Abyssinians.
In Bournemouth was where the big bands play every weekend.
Yes, yes, they were. Yes, a lot of the big bands used to play there.
And you had. That's why. Try to understand how you could leave that out.
No, it's not.
A lot of people do.
It's not me leaving it out, you know.
And you had a lot of the legends. It's caught quite a few of them.
It's not me really leaving it out, you know. It's all the tour takes form because if I should take you on a tour personally, you would hear this from me. But going on a tour with a people in the area where they want it to be done, and if they're excluding that, then I would might not bring it up because there's a lot to it more than that. Just as on Windward Road, if I mention Meritone music, people will say Meritone, Meritone, but they didn't know that on Jackson Road, at the top of Jackson Road, there was a club there. And when Meritone came to Kingston from St. Thomas, the very first time they played there, they never returned to St. Thomas. They stayed in Kingston. Winston and his brothers, they returned, yes, as going back, but the Meritone music didn't go back. It remained in Kingston. And the music, the Meritone music, I think is one of the longest sound system that is being operated in Jamaica today, if not the longest reigning.
Yeah, well, it's the longest reigning presently. Yes, it is.
Yeah, right. So when they came to Jackson Road, they didn't return. Right, but is the music? If I go to talk about the music, is a whole different scenario.
I know you sound like you would just stay here all day and talk about all of that because
and just music because the music has so much to it.
Yeah, man, and there's so much involved with the
There's
whole
a lot
music
to it.
scene. So, so how you see the future of the music in Jamaica now? Yeah, I didn't hear that answer query. Yeah, I was just asking what you think about the future of music in Jamaica. You know, the direction, the present direction that we are heading and all of that.
The direction that they're going now, I think they need to tone down on a lot of the violence because every other music coming out now, it has a lot of violence. I don't see where it is going to live beyond 10 years. And we don't need that. We need to have more consciousness in the music. We'll need a lot of consciousness in the music because somebody might was saying that the youth, them just attack their mind, but it is breeding violence and the violence is turning over into the communities. And that's where it's bad because they're ending up killing each other because of that, right?
Because people don't know, you know,
I think Anthony, if I think Busy Signal did a music.
Yeah, I was just saying that most people don't really understand that music, you know, it goes with a frequency. So on a frequency create vibrations.
Right.
Yeah, so when you do certain kind of music or sing or use certain kind of words, it creates a certain vibration. And you know, when the start is being transferred, then you know it can create havoc or it can create peace and tranquility. So
that's true.
We have not examined that. We think that because you know the technology is changing. Because I noticed something now that you're not hearing musicians and music anymore. It's mostly the computer beats that is being interjected in the music. And one of the disadvantages of that, when you see these artists now come on a stage show, they can't perform accordingly because they don't have the beat. You know, the musician can't replicate the beat of the computer.
Computer, right.
Right. So they can't ride a rhythm as they would like to say them ride a rhythm. Because I've seen something that happened like last year in a concert that Botanical was doing. And I was shocked because Botanical had asked the technicians to give him a beat, and when I was giving up, I had to tell them to stop because they were giving him a beat faster than the thing what he was like DJing. And I'm saying, no, right. I just do this a cappella and I'm sound much better. So the thing is this, that the present situation with our music in Jamaica, and the musicians need to come and talk up for themselves that what they're doing now of getting rid of the musicians, you know, what will happen in the future if you don't have nobody to play the music?
Well, that's it, because that's what I was saying, because the rhythm, that's why I was talking about the 2-track and the 4-track. You're not getting that anymore. That kind of beat, you're not getting that anymore. It's a faster beat, and it's a computer that they're using. They stop using studio studio bands. Because in the days that we know that they had studio bands, every studio had a band. And this went on for quite a while, and probably only certain some of these old musicians, such as Beres Hammond, will use a band on his set, and others that come up with him will use a band on their set. But otherwise, these that are using the computer generated music, they actually, it's kind of very difficult for them with the musician to copy the style of the computer to get it correctly done, because it's a generated thing. It's not engineered as a you don't get that beat. It's a different kind of a sounding beat you get. That not the guitar playing. It's not, and the drumming is not. It's kind of different with the drumming also, because it's a faster thing. The computer, it's man-made computer, but
sorry. Let's keep on talking about the music. Just give me a minute. Yeah, let's keep on talking about the music.
Okay, so
Yeah,
it's not that the music is dying. It is quite alive and well. And I think that going forward, what we need to do is just probably help the younger ones to understand where we're coming from with our music and where we want to go with it, because it has a lot of potential. I mean, worldwide reggae music has influenced almost every nation on this planet, where we have like well, all right, look at in England in the 70s, especially in the 80s, where we had groups like the Aswad, we had all these English groups coming up, Steel Pulse, Aswad, and so on. And these groups were influenced by our own reggae music, our own the one drop that we had in those days influenced these groups to become. And even the other day, the group that won the reggae Grammy, a lot of people have been talking and talking. We are not doing the work in Jamaica here, because if we were doing the work in here, we would have won that Grammy, right? Because we play around like it's a game. This is not a game. They're taking it more serious. They have a female group that does reggae, a white female group. You have another group that does reggae for it's another I think it's a mixture of male and female that do, I think them called Ska. I think them name Ska. SKA is a group, and they do all music, right? And they're building on that. I think we're falling down along the line, and we should really accept that we have done that and get up and do what we have to do so we can have the music portraying it in the way that it used to be, right? Um, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Peter Touch, Bunny Wailer, they were the Wailers. They were the Wailers. And they all went off in different directions. They became successful at whatever they were doing. Bob Marley became successful. To me, he became successful as the evangelist. Peter Tosh became successful as the rebel or the revolutionary. And Bonnie Wailer became successful as the priest. Because if you listen to their music, you will understand the different kind of messages that they were sending out. And that is how I turn them, right? I call them the priest, the evangelist, and the revolutionary. That's how I term Bob Marley, Peter Touch, and Bonnie Wailer. That's how I really put them, because of the lyrics that they were putting out. And we don't have anyone putting out that kind of lyrics now, right? We need that kind of energy in the music for it to come back so we can accept that, yes, this is ours. This is what we use to this, and not allowing someone else to take it, because they will take it. And then we will have nothing to say. We can't say it.
well,
Right?
I'm just here imagining, you taking me on a tour guide, because just looking at or listening to you right here, make it, I realize that many people come back and ask to be, you to be their tour guide, doing this music tour guide and all of that. Because surely, you are a very experienced person with the music, with plants, so maybe you need to start your own tour guide school. So have you ever considered teaching all these principles that you have gathered over the years, and put it together to do, teach the heart of tour guiding? Are you hearing me, Mr.
Okay.
Creary? Yes,
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Yeah. I was just saying, if you ever really think about it, like put it together, like even a manual for this kind of tour guiding, because it's very important, because we see that culture, the whole culture tour guide thing is gonna take off sooner or later in Jamaica, because tourists is gonna stop. Is
Yeah,
not
because
really interested now in being just staying all inclusive.
I tell you something, I'm a tour guide. I don't use a script. I do my research, I study, I read, and I retain. So if I'm taking you on a tour, say I'm taking you on a tour from Kingston to Port Antonio, you will never see me have a book or a piece of paper in my hand because I'm not a scripted person. And I will take you on a tour from Kingston and giving you detailed information right along the route until we get where we are. And when we get where we are, where we should be, I would also give you a detailed tour of that place and tell you what is happening there and what and what and because I've done my research, I've done my homework. This is how I do it, right? If I'm going to go on a tour, I travel the route and see what is there. Then I come back and build a tour and said, okay, this is what. All right, now I have the information. I'm good to go, right? The tour guides that are here, I don't think they have done the kind of tour that I am doing. I can take a bus of 40 people and I've engaged them in every single step of the way for probably 6 hours. That's the kind of tour I do. 4 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours. That's me. That's how I do tours. I'm doing a tour and probably it's 1.5 hours. And probably we just walk in a quarter mile. See, we don't even walk in a mile, but a quarter mile and that's it, you know. You get a lot of information there. This is how I do a tour. And especially at Hope Gardens where I work, and the Chinese garden. The Chinese garden, I can say that the Chinese garden in itself, it was a donation from the People's Republic of China to Jamaica. Mrs. Marigold Harding, which was former Custos of St. Andrew, she was the one that went to China and received that garden for us, and she brought it back, and the construction was started in February of 2014 and completed in July of 2015. 17 months and about 30 people work on the project. And it is there now standing as a symbol of friendship between Jamaica and China. That's what the Chinese garden is. The trees that are over there, they are not native to Jamaica. As a matter of fact, the entire Hope Gardens as a garden, the original trees that are planted there, 99.9% of the trees are not native to Jamaica. They're not. They came here during the slave trade and after the slave trade and were planted there to see how well they would do outside their natural habitat. Because Hope Garden was a plant experimental site, and the first botanic garden would have been Bath in St. Thomas. The second botanic garden would have been Syncona. Not Syncona, Scatterton. And Syncona would have been the plant experimental site. And they call it Hills Garden after in 1873 when Hope Garden became a botanic garden. It was like Hope Garden was the mother that was breeding having these children and sending them out. So it was Hope Garden that was the mother of all of these places. And Templar was a plant experimental site. I live about a mile away from Templar. So I'm up in the hills.
Yeah, I know Templar, right? Yes.
Yeah, I'm about a mile from, and the great house there is still standing. It is still standing over there. And Templar was the first place that coffee was planted by the governor by the name of Nicholas Laws, and that was done in 1728. Right? So we have a lot.
So back to the Oak Botanical Gardens, though. So what do you think attributed to all of these plants that was native to the country being grown there? You know, these plants and flowers and all of that.
They wanted to just see how well they would do outside their natural habitat where they came from, and so a lot of these plants adapt to the tropical region because most of the plants came from Southeast Asia, Africa. Southeast Asia include Japan, China, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Ceylon, Sri Lanka, all those places. And the other plants that they use plants from Jamaica here. They plant there, but they're not as old because I think those plants were started to plant in 1953 and 1971 thereabout. Before that, it was only plants that were coming from different parts of the world. What they were trying to do was to build a tropical garden out of Southeast Asia and a European garden out of Europe. The European part of the garden didn't work because this is a tropical country, and those plants died. There are some plants that are planted in Syncona because Syncona is 5,200 feet above sea level, and so you can have a hoop pine up there, and there's also a Japanese cedar up there.
Okay. Very interesting fact. So Flavius, are you there? Okay, so Mr. Query, as you know, we're coming to the close of the show. What is the future for Mr. Query? Being a tour guide, being having all of this expertise. Have you looked at having a prodigy, developing someone, to have this kind of or share this kind of knowledge with other people or younger people to to fit into what we are expected our tourism to be like, because with your knowledge you just can just have this knowledge locked up within you, and it's not being shared to a younger generation to come. You know what I mean? So what are your feelings or what are your thinking in this regard?
Okay, in going forward, I anticipate that I'm writing 3 books. I've already finished one. I'm actually having the second one done right now because it's right in front of me. I'm writing a book on trees in Jamaica, the migration of trees and the slave trade. I'm writing a book on the retrospect of Hope Garden. Hope Garden is in retrospect. I am writing a book about the Chinese garden, right? The gift of the Chinese. The book of the book that I have. I also am training persons, but in particular, I have a son, and I have 3 females that I am departing my knowledge to them for them to know and for them to be able to go out there and execute, and so they can always give information and facts the way I do it. So I have those persons that are really understudying me in some way. I hope that I will continue to be a cultural heritage ambassador of this country and keep people abreast of what is happening in our culture, and what I am planning to do with the information that I have in helping a lot of people to come to grips of what we have so they can partake of it in a nice, smooth way, because it's ours. It doesn't matter who, but it is now ours, and so we should claim it. We should take it and have it as ours and not destroy it, because I've seen where a lot of our historical site has been destroyed intentionally and unintentionally, and that shouldn't have happened. Right? But going forward, I think with a Christopher Creary, I would hope that a lot of persons will just really learn from me as much as they can, and able to disseminate that information to the future generation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Queer. So Flavius, are you back in studio? It seemed like with us having this technical difficulties, with us ask you to be with us. So today, Mr. Query, really thank you. And we surely will have you back again, because we see you're very knowledgeable, in music, and we are people who love music. And, you know, I think maybe you could express a whole lot about this whole history of music in Jamaica. So before we leave, is there anyone you want to give some big ups to or anything that before we close out the show?
Oh, wow! I have 5 ladies in my life.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to big up Romy Toylai. I want to big up Jacqueline Chisholm. I want to big up Christine Neilwright. And I want to big up Kerry Ann Simmet and also Andrea Powell Creary.
Oh, wow.
Those are the persons I want to big up. Those 5 females keep me going.
Yeah, so, you know, welcome to the close of the show. And we thank you very much. And we'll talk again and let you know when we'll have you back, because we have to really continue this discussion, you know, and extend it more into the music, because, you know, I know that many of
into
our
the music, yes,
love the music. And
let's go into the music next.
Yes. So that's the next time. So from the Real Stuff podcast, we thank you very much. And now we have closed our show. So
You lead us so full. You belong far away away. Ajugwala lebo buseru. Lida mua, lida sungfula. Lida mua, lida sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer so rough. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me know what set me a pick a flee. Me have to take away me say. Me have to take away me say. Me have to hide like a thief in the night. Me have to get out of sight.